There's what? We're live.
Good morning. Thank you for joining us here at NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida for Space Shuttle Endeavor's STS-134 post-landing crew news conference. It is my pleasure to introduce you to the STS-134 crew and commander. It is Commander Mark Kelly.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming out very early in the morning at 2:30 when we landed, if you were there. And thanks for waiting. Sorry it took us so long. We were doing some medical tests and some medical experiments. One of our crew members, Greg Chamitoff, is still in the process of doing that, so he's not going to be able to be with us today. I'd first like to introduce the rest of my crew. To my left, Greg Johnson, our pilot, former Air Force Colonel, F-15 pilot. This is his second flight on Endeavour and second landing at night. Mike Fink, U.S. Air Force Colonel as well. Mike is now the U.S. record holder for time and space. He previously did 2 long-duration flights flying up and down on the Russian Soyuz. And then Colonel Roberto Vittori of the Italian Air Force, who is with OSSI but on a mission for the European Space Agency. Roberto and I actually have known each other the longest, having served at the Naval Test Center at Patuxent River at the U.S. Naval Test Pilot School probably 15 years ago now. And then Drew Feustel, our lead spacewalker, who led 3 of the spacewalks during this mission and supervised all 4 of them. Really critical member of this crew. We did 4 EVAs, which are very, as many of you know, are very, very high risk things to do, and they went flawlessly. And we got everything done that we'd planned to do. We installed the alpha magnetic spectrometer on flight day 4 of the mission, which was a pretty exciting milestone for us. It'll be a new day for astrophysics and space to have a very high-tech cosmic particle detector outside the Earth's atmosphere. Dr. Ting and his team of over 600 scientists and engineers are now really, really busy analyzing 50 million particles a day. I have no idea how they do that. How do you sort through 50 million of anything? But he is managing to do that, and hopefully we'll see some amazing discoveries. But now I guess we'll just go around the room and take your questions. Do I get to pick?
When the microphone comes your way, please state your name and affiliation with whom you're addressing your question. We have just a few moments, so please limit it to 1 question at first. If we have more time, we'll come back.
And I'll ask it fast. Commander Kelly, Peter King from CBS News Radio. We'll get this one hopefully out of the way. Did you truly say to your wife in your first conversation, "I'm back"? And how did that first conversation go? How did she sound to you?
Well, I haven't spoken to her yet.
You haven't?
No, because she's probably still sleeping. It's 8:30 in the morning here, and she's in the hospital, and I don't want to wake her up. So I just actually sent her mother an email and said, the first thing I do when I leave this press conference, let me know if she's awake, and then I'm going to call her. So,
Marcia.
Marcia Dunn, Associated Press, and I'm sorry to continue on the same thread, but what are you going to tell her? And when, do you think she got up to watch on TV? What are you thinking?
I don't know. One of the reasons we didn't have her come down here is because it was really late in the night, and what she's going through now is a very, physically challenging and difficult thing. Very busy schedule. It certainly would be disruptive. We all have kids right now that are just crashed from being up all night. And for anybody, you know, just anybody in this room, for us it's kind of easy because we've sleep shifted over a long period of time. But for, you know, you folks that were out at the runway, you're probably pretty tired right now. So what I'm going to say to her, you know that I really miss her and can't wait to get back there tomorrow to see her. So we're all looking forward to spending time with our families.
Okay, Evan.
Eben Brown, Fox News Radio. Colonel Vittori, you're going to be you are the last non-NASA astronaut to fly on a space shuttle. How important has the shuttle been to the non-NASA space programs, the European Space Agency, and so on and so forth?
Shuttle has been a fundamental part of everything that we have done as Europe in space, and we have continuously using the possibility to fly on the shuttle since I don't recall exactly when was the first year, but since the very beginning of the shuttle era. And obviously for me it's a privilege to be the last one on board of the shuttle, on board of Endeavour. The flight has been spectacular, and I was very pleased to see the space station almost double the size that I had seen in 2005. I was very pleased to see the cupola, Node 3, Node 2, and everything else that one way or the other went through the European Space Agency and the Italian industry. So I'm very honored and privileged to have I've had this opportunity, and grateful to NASA.
Okay, Mark.
Mark Ratterman with Talking Space. Question for Commander Kelly. I first saw you and your crew here at August 26, 2010 at the shuttle landing facility when AMS came over from Geneva, Switzerland. I remember thinking how committed and focused you were on that hot August day. And what do you expect that you will always remember about STS-134's crew and mission?
Well, certainly in a 16-day flight, we've got a lot of great stories that we'll be telling for a long time. Many that we certainly can't share with you. But what I'll remember most, you know, are these, you know, the four guys here and Greg Chamatov. You know, this is an incredible group. These flights are really, really hard to do. I mean, it's very tiring, very long days, technically difficult stuff. You know, spacewalks are very hard, the robotic arm operations. I'd say our pilot, Greg Johnson, here is probably one of the most experienced robotic arm operators that the space station has now, even though he hasn't done a long duration flight just from his 2 missions. You know, this stuff is really, really difficult, and to do it with a group of people that are just so accomplished and so experienced, and, you know, it makes it, you know, very easy for me. It makes my job a lot easier to have guys like this, you know, on this crew. So I'll remember them more than anything.
Todd Halverson of Florida Today, I guess, for Mark Kelly. I think you came into the Corps in the mid-1990s, and it's kind of fascinating to me to see how the content in these missions has grown in complexity over the years, and I'm wondering if you can comment on what your perception is on how much more complex these missions have become, and whether or not it's possible, humanly possible, to squeeze any more into a mission than you guys seem to have done this time around.
Well, it's a good question. They have become more complex, and, you know, a lot of times you hear crews say, "Hey, this is the most complex, you know, shuttle mission ever." You wouldn't hear that out of me at this point. They're all really hard, so I've never said that. They're really, really difficult to do. They're all completely jam-packed. But, you know, I think, you know, to address, can you pack more in? Well, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we're going to fly one more flight. It's in 6 weeks. That flight schedule's been written. It's a crew of 4. They're going to have an equally challenging time. It's on Atlantis. The mission will have to be a little shorter because they can't transfer power from the space station to the space shuttle. So I think, you know, they'll have a challenging flight, and these are really hard, but they should be. It's really, really expensive to fly the space shuttle, or any spacecraft for that matter. So the fact that our days, you know, that we wake up and we go to work and we do not stop until we fall asleep is appropriate. You know, it's the way it should be. Fortunately, we're able to do this generally without making mistakes, and thankfully without, you know, hurting people, you know, as we go about the day on the space station.
Gina Sinceri, ABC News for Drew and Mike. You both pulled off an 8-hour-plus spacewalk. I mean, that was exhausting for us down here. How was it for you up there on that night?
It wasn't planned. It was exhausting for us as well. I was lucky to have Mike there. We sort of talked about it pre-flight about what our plans were. We knew EVA-2 was our longest and most difficult EVA. It was 2, right? That we went 8 hours.
Yes.
They kind of blurred together. And we knew that going into it. So we sort of had a plan that, hey, we're going to stay out here and do what it takes. And also because that was the ammonia day, we knew that we had to finish the task and see it through to completion. So it was tough. I think Mike's going to lose a few fingernails over this, and I certainly have some beat up hands. But we were both, I was fortunate that Mark supported us staying out there and getting the job done. We knew we had a day off ahead of us the next day, and so everything sort of came together. And sometimes looking forward, you don't see the path through to the end, but looking back, I see how it was almost fortuitous that we had that day off, and we were able to have EVA-2 land on that day that allowed us to go late. And I'm just happy that we were able to see it through. And really overall, over the 4 EVAs, we only left one thing out on the table, which was a cable that we didn't deploy. And that's a fairly straightforward task that can be left for others to do. So the content was packed. We planned it that way. We trained for 1.5 years to make sure that we optimized every moment of the EVAs. And I think luckily we were successful in doing that with the teamwork between the whole crew, the support of the crew, and the 3 spacewalkers. So it worked out well.
I agree with Drew.
Me 3.
James Dean with Florida Today. I was wondering if any of you guys got to stay up to see that Soyuz depart. If so, how neat of an experience was that, or how eager are you to see that photo that hopefully will come out with you guys there, on the outpost, the only time that picture with a shuttle there will ever be seen?
If they did, they were not following the commander's orders. We were asleep. That was our sleep time. It was right in the middle of our sleep time, and we really didn't have a chance to watch it as much as we wanted to. We just had to get our rest because it was a sprint. The whole mission was a sprint, and we needed our rest.
And we're definitely looking forward to that photo coming out. We also took a similar photo through some careful pre-planning. We took a very nice fisheye lens on our last part of our last EVA. Greg Shamatov was able to sit on top of the world, on top of the space station, and look back. And we have a couple really nice shots of we can see the end-to-end of the space station. The shuttle on one side, the European automated transfer vehicle on the other side, the American segment, the Russian segment, the European, Japanese, and it is just really a stunning picture. And I think Greg said some nice words. So we got to see that for real. It's not the only picture that's going to see, but I think when Paolo took the shots from the Soyuz, they're going to be spectacular. And I think we all should be really impressed how big and magnificent that space station is. We saw it on the undocking, and then the re-rendezvous for the storm, and we were just, we're kind of older, shall we say, not jaded guys, but we're not easily impressed anymore. We've been there, done that. We were impressed. We were excited like 5-year-olds at a roller coaster park. I mean, it was pretty impressive.
Brian Locke, Stone County leader. If the shuttle program wasn't winding down, Endeavour did so well with no problems, do you feel that there would be more years left in the shuttles that remain?
I want to take that. Well, we made a decision some time ago to retire the space shuttle on this schedule to use to use the the NASA budget to build a new vehicle to go on and do exploration, to have a a simpler, safer spacecraft. I love the space shuttle. I mean, I'd fly it, probably just like Jerry here. I'd fly it as much as I possibly could. I'd probably go out there every couple months if I could have the opportunity to fly in the space shuttle. But it's 30 years old, and we've got to grow and adapt and build new things, and it's going to be probably 5 or 6 years, maybe 7. Before we have a new U.S. spacecraft to take crew members first to and from the International Space Station, and then hopefully outside of low Earth orbit. But we'll get there. So this was the plan. But personally, yeah, I would love to, fly the space shuttle every week if I could.
Denise Chow at space.com. Question for Mike Fink. You're a very experienced space flyer, and obviously on this mission set the record, new record for the most number of days a U.S. astronaut has been in space. But this is also your first space shuttle mission. I was wondering if you could describe what that experience was like, and especially in light of the fact that it was Endeavor's last.
Oh boy, yeah. Both myself and Ricky Bobby here, Roberto, we both flew twice on the Soyuz, and that was pretty spectacular. It was pretty amazing going through the Russian program, and both of us served as flight engineers, got to push a lot of buttons running the checklists in Russian language, and that was pretty magnificent, and we definitely treasure that. But getting a chance to fly on the space shuttle, it was a dream of mine, and I couldn't have asked to do it with a better group of guys here on our crew, and couldn't have asked for a better ground support team. So it was everything I dreamed of when I was that 8 or 9-year-old kid that wanted to fly on this new space shuttle thing. It wasn't even built yet, it was still being in the planning, and that's all I wanted to do. I made a T-shirt with the space shuttle on it with markers because they weren't out in the stores yet, and I still have that T-shirt. And childhood dreams don't always come true, and sometimes real life comes in. But man, this dream, the reality was better than the dream. Can you believe that? It was so incredible. And we just landed a few hours ago, and I'm still just basking in, I can't believe it. It was so surreal how wonderful that was. So I'm thankful to my crewmates for supporting me and helping get through these really difficult and tough mission. We got through it and did it really well. It was really amazing.
We have time for one last question with Ken.
Ken Kramer for Spaceflight Magazine. For Drew, you've worked on shuttle missions on both to the Hubble Space Telescope and to the International Space Station. Can you compare and contrast the challenges and the excitement of those very different missions?
Well, the space station's quite a bit bigger than Hubble, and that's for sure. I guess you could, I would talk about the EVA experience, and that was, for Hubble, we parked it in the trunk, in the payload bay of the space shuttle, and we worked there in close quarters. And the feeling of being there working on Hubble, although the tasks were intense and very detailed and very technical, and we did 5 spacewalks back to back, that made the schedule very hectic. However, on space station is very large, and there's a long distance to move over, so that creates that's a lot of effort in and of itself, spending that time moving across the space station and doing that work. So they're both very challenging in different ways, very fatiguing. Any EVA you do, any work that's done outside in a spacesuit is fatiguing, and so to compare them is really just to compare the relative size of the 2 spacecraft, the satellite versus the telescope versus the space station. But the work it still wears you out after 6 or 8 hours. The feeling's the same when you're coming back in the door. You're sort of sad that it's over, but happy to be done.
Yeah. This will conclude continuing coverage of the STS-134 mission. For more information on the Space Shuttle program, STS-134, or Space Shuttle Endeavour, please visit www.nasa.gov/shuttle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you.